Crypto market crash warning. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name's Neil. We keep technical analysis short and sweet, so there is no warning. I don't believe there's going to be a major crash coming. Bitcoin is holding on this upward trend line, and I drew this red line to show kind of like the exponential gains that can potentially be happening when Bitcoin starts pushing back upwards and trying to hold this red line. As long as we are staying above this black line, we are still in the good. And ultimately over 108 is ideal. We are trying to bring the 200 EMA closer, which is ultimately going to start pushing Bitcoin upwards. Even if it does do a major retracement, the 200 EMA is very, very strong right now. And just like MicroStrategy, as soon as everybody starts selling, he's buying it right back up along with everybody else. There's more Bitcoin being bought than there are being mined. So just keeping that in mind. Supply and demand, that's just kind of general economics. But moving on over to Tornado Cash, I'm reminding you once again, as well as myself, get some money on MXC if you can, or some other trading platform where you can trade Tornado Cash, because we are currently up over 50%, I guess 40% from our first entry. Second entry, once we closed and held above the $11 mark, which I was saying is we go up above it, and then we tested it once more, pushed right up, and now we have this new trend line that we are looking at right here, and this is kind of the next major support, this black trend line underneath it, which I will now make a different color, orange, yellow. We see that holding this yellow trend line is very, very bullish. CM Guppy is getting very tight, is getting very hot. It's not crossing over into the green on the CM Guppy. The 200 EMA is very, very tight. This is about as bullish as you can get for any cryptocurrency. Everything in this chart looks phenomenal, really, in my opinion. If we get rid of absolutely everything, just look at it. You'll start to understand what the market has potential to do. As we see, the all-time high is up here at $462, and we are currently at 12. Neil, as well as everybody else watching this channel, it's not financial advice, but you should definitely sell some of the crypto that may be never coming back and buying into Tornado Cash, or if you have some profits, take some of those profits, transfer. MXC is in the reference description below this video, but definitely this is just looking bullish as all hell. So moving on to QNT, a lot of people are freaking out thinking the market's gonna just implode on itself, which, I mean, there's always the possibility of that, but with say we get a major decrease here on quant, say this black upward trend line does not hold and we break below that, the next stop we could expect is around the $90 mark, which is this previous low. We do want to be closing above the previous low to see more bullish momentum. If it closes below it, you could expect even a push down to $65. But I do not believe that's going to be happening. I believe Bitcoin is holding some pretty nice support. If we can get this to hold above this previous low, it's looking more and more bullish. Let's see, where's the 200 EMA? 200 EMA is right below this black upward trend line. So we're getting a lot of pressure from this 200 EMA, trying to consider this more support. And this is on the daily chart. So I actually want to zoom in on quant for the 4 hour. And when you look in on the 4 hour, it's a lot more reliable than the daily. So what we can clearly see here is this is one top, this is another top. We call that the double top, and with that we saw it push downward. So when you were in profit, once it broke over that previous high back here in June 11th and 12th, we broke up over it for a little while. Everybody wanted to make some more money in between. There's people who have leverage plays where, say they have $100 and they want a 10x, that means they have $1,000. As soon as it breaks this point, they turned $100 10 times, so $1,000 with that potential profit, and they want to get out. They don't want to risk anything else. 10%, they just made all their money that they needed and they sell out. But you got to keep in mind, it's fucking, pardon my language, millions of dollars. So millions of dollars being pushed out. and then we get that push back up, the opportunity to sell once more because it did not close over the previous high, and it had that push back down underneath the 200 EMA very, very quickly, keeping in mind each one of these bars are 4 hours. However, you can now take a look at this in the 4 hour and say, here is a W forming right off of that upward trend line, which looks very nice as well. And we just, last time we pushed underneath that 200 EMA, you see it was just for a little while, which would be considered this area right here in the July 29th and 30th, back here compared to June 12th, and then we had that major push down. This is that major push down, and then we got support off this black upward trend line and pushed it immediately back up to the new high, which it got rejected from. So now we are testing the support once more and potentially pushing back up to get a little bit over that high, maybe even close above here around 149. Fibonacci retracement from this previous high down 618 is only back to 124, 125, which you may see a little bit of consolidation and then trying to make that new high, holding support off that black upward trend line. So not really worried in any way about quant. It looks very healthy as well. You want to keep that 200 EMA close, if not even pushing under it to get that spring and push it back up to a new high. Definitely for Aaron on this one, you got to diversify your portfolio. Don't be 100% in on one thing. I got like maybe 30% of my portfolio just in XRP because it's dollar cost averaging. Something that you don't really need to worry about. You just take the profits, put it into it. And I was buying at 50 cents. Here we are at $3.50, or I guess $3 now for XRP. So you can't really be disappointed when you're dollar cost averaging, but it's definitely better to have diversified portfolios. So when quant is doing its consolidation and testing, you can start putting your money into other coins that are actually profiting. And if you want, taking that profit, putting it back into quant for dollar cost averaging. When you get the opportunity, definitely try and pull some profits and diversify your portfolio, as other coins may have better potential. Like Toshi here, we are getting a little bit more support off this black upward trend line. And ultimately, the 618 is exactly where this retraced. So we had that pullback from 00099 back down to 38. And then the 618 right here at this orange box on the Fibonacci is right where we had that rejection at 0.007, more than double your money, and then a sell-off back down to 0.005, and we are starting to build that support once yet again. The RSI is right at the 50, trying to hold support over the yellow, which could ultimately start pushing Toshi back up to this 0.007 area. And just with this increase in price, keeping in mind this is a meme coin, so it's probably not the best investment, but 19% increase with that push up. That could happen in the day, it could happen in a few days. But while this goes up 20%, you could be looking at quant, and you could say, well, you're just waiting to get back to break even, which is still 15%, but 15% on 125 as to 19% off of pennies. This may be even a better bet to be putting the money in for the quick scalp. But if you're doing a long swing trade, definitely stay in quant or dollar cost average in XRP. None of this is financial advice, as always. And looking at IOTX, it was looking very bullish. It also got rejected right here at the 0.034 as expected, as when you go back in time, we look that this would be a key support and resistance level. Looking at here over in August, we had that support. I mean, obviously it came down a little bit below that, but this is where it tested a lot of times. And then we had the testing here in February and here as well in April, or I guess March. And so here we tested it once more. This is a pretty important line that we need to be breaking to start seeing some major movement for IOTX, but it came back to test this 200 EMA, and when it touched that 200 EMA, look at the volume. The volume picked up exponentially. The RSI is right at the 50. We need to cross over that yellow, and we may start seeing this push upward. This orange trend line is just a idea of what it should be following. You can always readjust that, so we can say this is the new bottom. You could try and line up something else like this to try and make sense of it. But you can see that if we slightly move this right with the 200 EMA, we can readjust this to the top of these points right here. And it kind of connects. We have the support roughly in this area. And we can start seeing IOTX push back up towards the 0.03, keeping in mind the Fibonacci retracement from the bottom to the top. And now we are here is right around the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement. So we may get a little bit pushed lower around the 0.27. However, we could see some support off this 200 EMA as the volume is picking up, and IOTX is not a bad bet for a risk to reward ratio as we are at less than 3 cents. The next major resistance is most likely around 5 to 7 cents. And then once we break that 7-cent downward trend line daily, IOTX was all the way up here at 49 to 50 cents. 3 cents to 50 cents is definitely a good risk to reward ratio. And now that we are breaking up over that 200 EMA right here, we saw that happen in the past back in November of 2023, tested as support, which is potentially where exactly we are right now for that major push up. The 200 EMA causing pressure, pushed it all the way up to 0.666 cents, and then had that major cut in half price, 50% reduction. Everybody selling off before it immediately got bought back up to the same price, allowing people to exit who bought in at this point. Retraced, the 200 EMA is causing a lot of pressure, and then pushed it back up to this 10-cent mark. IOTX is definitely not a bad bet. The RSI is right around the 50, getting there. Just keep an eye on IOTX. It's a pretty good bet. Not financial advice. I keep reiterating that because I don't want to get sued. But here we are with BNT, very healthy. Just like the rest of the market, push back in below that 200 EMA. Perfect W starting to form. We could see it push towards this downward trend line right here, which is around the 76 cents. A 6-cent gain on 70 cents is not bad. But in the overall picture, BNT just looks like if you have not entered where we entered, which was down here at 36 cents, this is a major inverse head and shoulders forming out, as I have charted here with the green left shoulder here, head right here, right shoulder here. And now we just need to fill this out, pushing back up to the 87 cents, ultimately breaking the 97 cents. And then from there, $1.51 is the next potential resistance mark, $1.58. But beyond that, BNT, I believe $20 is its all-time high. So that's more than 20x your money. And when you compare it to something like Quant, you say 20x on BNT is phenomenal. Quant, we can expect maybe 10 to 15x. But the risk to reward, BNT is not as reliable as Quant. So Quant is better for the long-term play. You know it's going to go up. It's got a better backing utility. BNT is definitely still not a bad bet. It's a governance token. But with the governance token, similar to XCN, 2,000% is not out of the ballpark range. So there is a lot of potential for BNT. When we hold within this downward trend here, we can adjust these lines to make it a downward channel. And the volume is picking up exponentially as well. And so I just want you to keep in mind, BNT really is not that bad of a bet. Once we start breaking out of this downward channel and start filling out this inverse head and shoulders, we can start seeing some exponential gains for BNT. DNT still in consolidation, I believe. I haven't checked. Consolidation had that major pump, still above this black downward trend line. Very nice to see some consolidation, bringing that 200 EMA closer, as when we ripped past it, we came right back down underneath it. We need to creep up over that 200 EMA very nice and slow. No major quick movements, as we will see major decrease in price. But DNT, do not get confused with BNT. DNT, last time I was in this, I predicted we would hit 5, maybe 6 cents from our 2-cent investment. We went all the way up to 19 cents from 2 cents. phenomenal gains. A lot of sell-offs, as you see. I have these boxes placed here at the absolute top before it had that major pullback and consolidation underneath the 200 EMA. However, once we break up over that 200 EMA, we can easily see that 19-cent mark again from the current 3 cents we are at. I'll do XRP and all the X's on another video because I'm running out of time on this one. D-Force is looking better and better in consolidation. We just want to see this consolidate, bringing that 200 EMA closer and closer downwards. And then once we break up over that, we are looking at this black downward trend line for the next resistance. Not a whole bunch to say on D-Force. It's in consolidation. There may be some other coins that are moving a little bit faster, but a little bit will go a long way with that coin. Doge trying to build support on this black upward trend line. As we see, it is underneath the 200 EMA at the moment on the daily, I believe. Let's zoom in. Yep, 200 EMA right here. Came up, tried to hold over, did not work, got pushed, which is necessary to fill out and create a higher low to see right here before we start pushing back up to the 21 cent mark. If you want to get in before the 21 cent mark and see if it'll hold above the 200 EMA, it's a little bit riskier. You do want to see it hold above that 21 cent before entering, as you will start seeing money flood into here, the 618 being 25 cents roughly. So that's nearly 25% potential increase for Doge. It is also a meme coin. RSI is looking good. Volume's looking good. Everything's looking good on Doge. As long as we hold above this black trend line and cross over that 200 EMA, we could start seeing it push further upwards. And then lastly for this video, and I'm going to recommend Tornado Cash once more, but graph building up on the upward trend line here, holding similar support like we saw with Doge, push up, came back after testing that 200 EMA, got rejected. We want to see slow consolidation upwards, up over this 10 cent mark, which would ultimately be crossing over that 200 EMA, pushing it back up to the 20 cent mark. GRT is definitely a swing trade on this one, but GRT has some major potential. $3.50 from about a 10-cent investment is not bad. Last time we pushed up and held over that 200 EMA, we saw potential gains of about 362%. Mainly we need to get above this black trend line, which is around 110%, 125%, getting to that 618, and then potentially once we break over, testing this as support before ultimately taking off towards the $3 mark. And everything in the crypto market happens really quick before it blows off and does the retracement again. So Bitcoin, you could be buying it, it goes up to $250,000. You're not going to make as much money as you would having that money in altcoins. And then when Bitcoin starts to retrace, more money floods into the altcoins, pumping them up even higher. And so with Quant, with IOTX, all these other ones, will start pumping more when Bitcoin starts retracing. And then once you make your money on the crypto and the altcoins, take it out, watch the market. There's going to be some rapid pullbacks and rapid increases, as we have seen in the past with Bitcoin. Like here, for example, it hit the all-time high of 65,000, pulled all the way back down with a 50% decrease, slaughtering a lot of the market, and then immediately pushed up to an even higher point when a bunch of people think it's going to have a continuation before ultimately killing itself once more and retracing back down to 16,000. So everybody thinks it's easy money. It's not easy money because a lot of people buy at the top and wait to get out whenever it is going to push further up. So similar with what we saw with XRP, it pushed up to an all-time high. We thought it was going to consolidate and have a continuation, but with Bitcoin's decrease in price, it pulled it back in to give it a little bit of respect for the market. That's it for this video. Like and subscribe if you want. It's the only thing that's making me make these videos, and definitely give me references. I'm going to do Near and Shiba on the next one for George, I believe was the person who asked. So good luck. Have fun with it. I will see you on the next one.